What Germans and Russians have in common is that in their history they have made major mistakes. And I think this to a certain degree is true. And other countries have suffered under these mistakes. Therefore, it's not only a bilateral issue, it's also an issue how we relate to the mistakes and the impact of these mistakes on our neighbors and the European situation as a whole. On the day-to-day level, we have to work with Russia, which has made a mistake, in my view, in its policy, in a situation in which the situation was unclear in Kiev. So people might have miscalculated, but this doesn't help us now. And there we need a certain type of crisis management. And I think that there Germany and Russians, on one side, for them it's easier to talk with one another, because Germans don't feel threatened personally as a nation by the Russians, and the Russians have a lot of complaints about the United States, but the number of complaints about Germans are more limited. We respect one another. But what we also have to understand that cannot be a bilateral deal. But other nations need to be included, other European nations. And that when we discuss about, for example, Ukraine, we cannot impose anything on them. It's a sovereign nation with a developing identity. And we have to respect that. And then we have to make, as Europeans, compromises with many countries inside the European Union. And naturally, we can't forget the United States on the other side of the Atlantic. So it's a complicated attitude in which Germany sees itself in the role as the chief facilitating operator, meaning making a compromise and steps easy in that direction, which is also difficult for us because our trust in the Russian leadership has suffered. And it's easy to lose trust, it's not so easy to regain trust, so it's a complicated situation. And on the Russian side, they look at the problem in a totally different way. I have listened to the speech of Putin when Ukraine was integrated, and he had difficulties in recognizing Ukraine as a separate nation. This is not how the majority of Ukrainians see themselves. So he is looking as if he is assisting somebody in their survival, meaning Russian identity inside Ukraine, and others see that as an aggressive actor. In a democracy, you have to, it's a power struggle about ideas, hopefully not only about money, it's about influence, but it should not be a civilized warfare. And if it should be civilized, not warfare only. And I think that inside Russia, political campaigns and discussions are very often fought in a way in which it is a question of survival for politicians. Either you win or I win. And it's not the situation that you say with all respect, I disagree with you, but I will fight for your capability to influence politics in your country also in the future. I don't want to destroy you. I'm winning a political battle, but it's not a defeat which I really want in the negative sense that I want to destroy the basis of your political argumentation and your political existence. And my impression is that this, how you deal with these power conflicts is still different in Russia. And whether you can develop such an amount of tolerance with argumentations which you don't share, that you fight for the freedom of your opponent, whether you need a fully fledged democracy, at least you need that amount of tolerance. And when you need that amount of tolerance, it also means that you should not be afraid that you lose. Very often in Russian society, people who have lost in Russian history did not survive it. Others did not later on, and so far it's already a process of civilization. They did survive it, but they lost all their jobs, all their income, all their influence. And I see there are also not only negative elements in Russian society and political developments, but that amount of tolerance which is needed to accept different opinions and to accept different opinions is also an amount of creative innovation inside a political society, as you need it in economy. And I think there I would love if I could see more of that inside Russian society and politics.